For those who wants to come, let them come. For those who wants to go, leave, let them leave. Don't remember where I got this, but I know this part of the Zen saying. And going through the tax return and some of the pain to go through all the bureaucracy, do this, do this. Just remember that word. Now, let's study what that phrase may mean. I have talked about the nature's way and the human way. And the nature's way, it's like a trees and bugs and animals and inanimate being. So obviously, nature's way is as it is. Whatever happens, it happens. Whatever go away, go away. When meet the competitor or to survival, you may fight or flee. When you feel close to someone or some situation, you want to eat the food, let them come and eat into my stomach or meet this person. Have some community if you want, and leave the community if you want to leave. I think Buddha's life may have been like that after awakening. He shared as he felt like sharing, and he remained silent when he felt like being silent. He talked because there was something that came up and wanted to share. So whoever wants to hear, he talked to them. And when that was enough, he quit. Maybe my monologue is like that. I'm talking to myself, or I'm talking to God, or eternity, for the sake of just clarifying in my mind and body what's going on. So this self-dialogue, you can call it, is to confirm that I'm connected. I don't know if I can talk about Brother Lawrence, and his life was being with God and have the dialogue. If you read his, someone wrote the book by interviewing him, it shows that relationship. So it's like you to yourself, you to your true self was a dialogue, and accordingly, externally, he processed. And the Buddha may have done the same. Not to equate everybody the same, but the spirit of what it happens is reflecting for those who wants to come, let them come. For those who want to leave, let them leave. And you may leave or you may speak naturally, connected to the heart. So let's look into the mind or the brain and heart relationship, which is the same as the human way and nature's way. As much as we have developed this brain to use speaking and analyzing and projecting or learning from the past, we have that faculty which helped us to evolve. So let me just go through this using the example of tax in all the cumbersome situation of filing. I was spending maybe 10 minutes just looking at how to do the electronic filing because the words that described was not clear to me. So you have to interpret what they want to say and check from all the angles so that if you don't do it right, you get some kind of extra work. A little painful to redo the whole thing because there's a miscommunication. So life of human being is that continuation of the process of clarification, communication, alignment, and developing the flow, so to speak, so that there's a smooth understanding, communication, to settle, to go through the barrier or the challenge or the meeting, and resolution by having a common understanding. Because as a society, that helps to communicate well, and if there's no good communication, there's pain and suffering. In nature, there's pain and suffering, more physical, not mental. So if you look at the suffering that human does, because of the ability for us to think, you can regulate or think back, or the memories pop up, disturbs you. But the other way to look at it is that it is a way of warning. If something happened that was painful, you remember that so that it doesn't happen again. If you see the snake and get bitten, that memory is there to not to go close. Maybe I don't want to equate the authority as the snake, but they have that fang of the things that, if it's not clear, and they may not have described well, but maybe it was my incompetency of not guessing what they are talking about. So communication, understanding, clarity helps externally to our situation as much as internally in our situation. And within nature, that communication is straightforward because they basically represent the law of nature. So in human, within myself, I clarify, streamline, as if there's nature's way functioning, because that's where we came from, and we don't want to, or I don't want to get away from it, because the human way without the nature way doesn't make sense to me. So the brain has to have some connection with it, and then externally too. So living in a society, I'm using this tax filing as a bureaucracy, the rules, and I am to travel to go through the requirement of the COVID testing here and there, and the visa, passport, and meet the time for the bus or the airplane, and not forget this, but not bring too much to cause trouble. So you have to be careful about it. And perhaps as you age, it looks so burdensome, and then you want to settle because your life energy is sucked up in that process, as opposed to the state of being melting into nature. And I use the riding on the waves of the universe. You just want to navigate in such a manner that you don't go too much, but too little. The middle way of how you can utilize your skill, potential, related to external, but internally, so that you are healthy, physically, mentally, and spiritually. You have the way to see the world, and within yourself, there's a harmony, balance, and tone, like a symphony. Actually, I remember writing a poem about the symphony of the universe. Kabir's poem also indicates that. And there's love, affection, compassion that we can find. But living in the society, and the COVID and the tax and the financial situation, regulations and all of that, it's part of the society. So it's up to us. We don't want to be cased into, behind the bar like the animals in the zoo. We want to be free, but the freedom has limitation because it violates some rules. Then there's a regulatory authority to govern, so that you have to follow the rule. And we have to see through that. And if we don't see through it and fighting against the force, limitation, regulation, the way, then there's a conflict. It's a balancing act. The threat, as in nature, comes from every direction. In human life, the threat from nature may be less, but they'll come back to you like climate change. So there's no escape from the, you can call it the law of entropy. Things get into chaos if you leave that alone. So you have to find a balance to enrich what you got, have the energy smoothly flowing inside of you. So back to this tax filing and bureaucracy, traveling, is that you want to focus. And then in the process, because of your experience from the past, you can expect certain things happen, even if it's not happening. But because of that potential, we can feel bad about it, but it's also a benefit to think of the negativity so that you don't get there. So it's like two edges of the sword, so that we have this ability to learn from the past, experientially develop the wisdom to navigate our life. And for that purpose, the painful experience is necessary or important, so that we don't overstretch ourselves, but not to be too belittling ourselves, to hide away if there's some potential out there. So the middle way is the balancing act in many directions. There's a reason for the law, regulation that developed over time. It's not perfect. It's a human construct of drawing a line, and you have to fill up this column A, B, C, sign here, electronic sign, keep the record, and they send you email back, whatever, to confirm. And if you don't do it right, you pay the penalty, or you may have to revise, and then you have to go through another round of revision to file. Over time, we learn the lesson. That's the way we happen to be in the universe, so that we know who we are, what we do, what can be done, but also understand the principle, laws of the universe, how it's prevailing. To do that, we need to be able to see things all different angles. And the way I picture to do that is us, or myself in this case, to be transparent. If you are caught up in your mind with the ego or something, you can express whatever, just like a little child fighting against the class or the parents, and you learn the lesson. As an adult, the lesson is the same. Like a child, you still have to go through the constraint, regulation, even if that's not perfect, because nothing is perfect. It's always in the process of the change. So bring out the wisdom. We may be depressed, okay. Let's settle, because being depressed or anxious is not going to help. Take time. Look outside and see the birds flying, trees growing, doing their best. There's a moment when tree has to be quiet, and birds sitting in the trees and branches because of the storm. There's no other place to hide, so you sit and be waiting. That's what it is. We may have the house, some amenity, but the situation is the same. It's just a temporary abode, protection. And you won't be sitting there all the time, so you go out, find a balance, explore, rest, resolve, get energized, and have fun. Go out, explore, and continue that cycle. Keep in mind that the energy is flowing in a certain way, not overextending, but balancing out. And in the process, we understand the pain we may feel before filing or traveling, of the unknowns to face, but have a spirit energy to go through, as much as all the ancestors figured out the way to live under tyranny. It's the worst case of bureaucracy, dictators. So let's look at the overall picture. And for us to do that, we have to be open, meaning empty. Because there's stories out there and inside of us going on all the time. And if we can connect and listen to that story and be able to synthesize, to make sense out of it, not the mind linear thinking, but parallel synthesizing, that happens as much as we are born out of the dust of the universe. That's the synthesis to create this life. And that source of energy is within us, and we appreciate the fact that we can play this game, given what we got, have the potential, explore it. If you get tired or have some problem, then take a rest. Good perspective, open-minded, transparency, settle, reconfirm the energy within, and go out with some wisdom or the plan you develop, and move on. And every now and then have a cup of tea, be quiet, melting into what's going on in the nature, in the universe. And connection in the state of being, awakening, and live with that awakening to go through the difficulties of life. But because of that, we may appreciate what we can, then know the principle of the universe, how we manifest. And we are the manifestation of that. Go through it. For those who wants to come, let them come. For those who want to leave, let them leave. We are those. We may go here or there, exploring life. Have a cup of tea. Be well.